This episode of Blood Money is brought to you by FreshFarmsCBD.com, the best American-made CBD products on the market.
Joey, thank you so much for coming to our podcast, Blood Money. Great to have you here. Every episode we start with the question, what does blood money mean to you?
Blood money. What does blood money mean to me? Blood money is basically when you either take or, give money that's for, I don't want to say, necessarily evil purposes, but it's usually something that's not in the best interest of humanity, probably, or not in the best interest of the general public, or maybe not in the best interest of anyone else other than yourself. So I think blood money is something that is, usually someone on the other side of that deal is being hurt.
Is there examples of blood money in our politics today?
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. Look at our scumbag governor, Steve Sisolak. The money that this man took in from the state of Nevada got the second largest amount of coronavirus stimulus relief funds in the United States. We have 3.125 million people. And so I would say, where'd all the money go, Steve? And so same thing with, the money. We remember, cannabis money was supposed to go to the schools and, the mining money, and this and that. So I think that that's a great example of when finances or money are supposed to be directed or put towards one, initiative or towards something, and it just straight up disappears. So, or is used in nefarious or other ways.
Where do you think that money went?
Well, I mean, look what's happened. He's using it to test our people. He's using it to, he paid everybody off. You wonder why these casinos, didn't say boo. You look at these hospitals should have been in the red. They're some of the first years they ever hit the black, because all these hospitals are supposed to be, nonprofit. But, from HHS and from the state, where'd all the money go? Went to local government. I mean, I saw it. I pulled the reports for Clark County, for Washoe County. Hundreds of millions of dollars went out. Where did it go? I know one thing it didn't go to was the people's pockets. Small businesses, everyday folks didn't get a penny. So the government wasted, trillions of dollars again on nonsense.
Let's talk about Sisolak for a sec. You saw the video, I'm sure.
I can't tell you what a piece of you are.
Sorry to hear that.
You New World Order traitor piece of. You're in here without security? Woo!
I want to second that.
You piece of.
For treason, and I hope you hang.
I'm surprised that you have the balls to be out here in public, punk.
He had some words towards Sisolak.
I think that was absolutely deserved. I took phone calls from parents that lost their children during this lockdown because we had the highest suicides per capita in the nation. I talked to families and business owners that lost their business that they spent 20 years building. I talked to people that lost their loved ones in the hospital because our corrupt governor wouldn't allow hydroxychloroquine. So I had no, remorse for that. I think that was deserved. It's unfortunate that it comes down to this, but when you do what you've done to the citizens of this state, you best be prepared to face that kind of stuff. Let me tell you something, it's just getting started. People, once it really gets out, what was done with the money, what was done with keeping early treatment medications away from folks, once it really comes out what's in this vaccine and the kind of harm it's going to do for years to come, I think that these public officials and public servants won't be able to show their face in public.
As a governor, what are the actions you could take both through the media and especially through legal means, or encouraging legal actions? What are the sort of things you could do to make whoever has done us wrong pay the price?
Well, we're going to have a full audit. Day one, Joey Gilbert as governor, we're going to have a full audit of the entire state. We're going to find out where this money went. I want to see who got paid off. I know it's the governor's cronies, these testing labs that popped up, all these casinos, put in these labs, and our partners in labs and the universities in labs. And so, again, I'm going to track down the money, find out where it went. That's the people's money. It wasn't their money. So again, what we can do is we can do a nice fat audit of all the state's books, all the county's books, including the school districts. I want to see where Washoe County did with their money. I want to see what Clark County School District did with their money, Nevada, higher education, and then the hospitals. I want to see what they did with the payoff money they were given. So I think that's one thing. And then I do think that some people need to be charged. You have doctors and hospital CEOs that ignored protocols that were now standard across the country, not just the country, but across Europe, across the world, that they were using for prophylactic early treatment medication. Then we had Florida, which was a year and a half ahead of us with early treatment. And again, fifth highest senior population in the nation, and one of the lower death rates because they were using monoclonal antibodies and early treatment medication. And it's not just hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, although those are two phenomenal medications. There was fluvoxamine, there was budesonide. There's all kinds of things we could have used that we didn't use. And for that reason, like I said, we're going to go and see where this money went. see who is paid to not do the right thing, and hold them accountable.
I mean, why are these people, and you hear this all around the world, I mean, you're seeing Toronto or Canada become very authoritarian, people's bank accounts being invaded. I mean, there's this whole authoritarian pro-communist movement that seems to be happening all across the Western world, and leaders that are not really taking care of their population. Why is this happening?
Well, it's happened for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's no different than it's always been. It's about the elites. It's about, control of the little people. We're just, air breathers. We just take up their resources. And so they don't want, they don't really care. They don't care much about, the everyday man and woman, especially, the working man and women in this state and in this country. The American dream has just been throttled. And that happens when, governments pick winners and losers. What we saw here, that they would allow casinos to stay open, big box stores, Home Depot had a line around the corner, everybody's jumbled up on them. And meanwhile, the other thing that's crazy is I flew during this entire pandemic, so you couldn't go to church, but you could say, and I sat in first class with no mask on until Biden, until 3 months after Biden was in, then all of a sudden it was super serious. But I flew the whole pandemic, and again, it's a game of control. It was a consolidation of power and control. And as everybody knows, the largest transfer of wealth in the history of the world occurred during this pandemic, and it didn't go from those that didn't have it. It went for those who didn't have it, to anybody besides the big people. Mm-hmm. And what you saw was, and I guess what I was trying to say is, the smaller folks didn't get any money. Mm-hmm. It was their money that got shipped up to the tech giants, to the Amazons, to the big corporations, mainly tech, that took this pandemic and made it a very rich thing for them. More billionaires were created, and obviously tech and in pharmaceuticals. I think I remember hearing Facebook, which was a pretty profitable company until just recently, was doing about $35 billion a year. Well, if you look at what Big Pharma was doing, Moderna and Pfizer and them, they were doing $30 billion a day. $30 billion a day for something that doesn't work, doesn't prevent infection or transmission, doesn't lessen symptoms. I don't care what they say. And look what they did. They shut down the after effects, when you really want to get into some of the scary stuff. If you look at how many children died worldwide from hunger, from starvation, from not getting medical care, and not just here, but in Africa where they shut borders, huge continents, Asia, East Asia, it is just so disgusting. And these will be felt for a generation. This wasn't just, the losses from COVID don't even come close to the losses that we're going to have from denied medical care, no treatment, no food, starvation. It's unbelievable what really happened. And you don't hear about it in the media.
You're a lawyer. This sounds like a catastrophe on the level of what happened in World War II. Is there a Nuremberg type situation to all of this, where all these different, powerful people around the world, whoever plotted this, get to face justice?
Absolutely. There's a very, very powerful and just smart attorney, Reiner Fulmick, who's leading an investigation right now in Europe. They filed stuff in the criminal court, the International Criminal Court, but we've got grand juries coming across the country right now. We've got, like I said, the International Court, and absolutely, there was, at the end of the day, what did Nuremberg say? Nuremberg said that you could not perform experiments, scientific experiments, biological experiments, pharmaceutical-like experiments on people without their informed consent. Well, when you don't even know what's in this thing, let alone have any studies to show, any long-term studies, and they did very, very troubling things like destroy the control group, meaning that, a couple weeks after, the original people got the vaccine, those that were supposed to not get it, to see how they did, all came in and got it because of the pandemic. They wanted to be careful. Again, that is so atrocious, and in any other, at any other time in history, that would have been so not just illegal, but the hammer would have come down on these folks. And I do think you're going to see something very, very different in the next, I'd say 6 to 12 months. As the deaths pile up from this vaccine, it is a clot shot. It does affect your body's immune system. It destroys your broad spectrum antibodies, all right? It destroys the way your immune system performs, and it causes clotting. So it affects the pulmonary system, the cardiovascular system, and that's a huge issue. And in other things, you're seeing explosion of cancer returning by 300%. Mm-hmm. You're seeing miscarriages by 300%. And in the military, and again, Thomas Renz is a very good friend of mine, a partner of mine. Thomas Renz has has been looking at the data on the military, the DoD servers, and you've got a 1,200% increase in neurological issues going on, neurological diseases, neurological problems. So the true I guess damage is not even known yet. I mean, we've just scratched the surface. It's going to take a few years, and all I would tell people is don't get this vaccine, and definitely don't get a booster.
Was this a sinister plan, or was this like a comedy of errors?
This was an absolute sinister plan. I mean, you go back and look, this vaccine was actually patented back in 2015 and 16. They actually used, it's the same, it's just come out. Again, this isn't just me, hypothesizing. This is all now available if you want to find it. But Moderna had patented this exact sequence, 2015, 16, and then their vaccine. Again, another thing people don't talk about, where these vaccines come from. It would have taken, months, not just months, years to produce the amount of vaccines that we saw roll out, hundreds of millions of doses. They already made. And so there's something very suspicious going on. And again, you saw this from the very beginning. I have friends that were coding in hospitals that were given codes in early November, December. They started putting this information in their computer systems, and this is all starting to come out now. Whistleblowers from across the nation, across the world are coming out that this thing was known far in advance. And I mean, how can you go any different from Anthony Fauci? I believe it was January 12th, 2017. He comes out and says that there's no question that President Trump will face a pandemic, of basically, biblical proportions. He'll face a very troubling time while he's president. And of course, it comes out the last year of his, going into election year and the year of his presidency. So this was all planned. I call it the plandemic. And again, I've been, called a lot of, terms, over the last 2 years. But the funny thing is, everything I said since I started saying this stuff in March 2020 has now become true. And I'd like to ask that question to people now. What happens as a conspiracy theorist when everything that you've been talking about happens? So I've been saying, just watch what goes on. From day one in March, I said there's early treatment. Everyone needs to calm down. We need to get everybody hydroxychloroquine, like they were doing in South Korea. And people said Joey's, a tinfoil hat guy and this and that. And then I said to him, listen, be careful. This vaccine's going to come out. It's going to be very unsafe. They haven't tested it. It's going to do more harm than good. Stay away from it. And like I said, you just wait and watch a year from now what's going to come out on this vaccine.
President Trump was pushing this vaccine. He was very proud that it came out. Do you think he was duped, or was there any complicity on his part?
I personally, and this isn't because I'm just a fan of President Trump. And when I say a fan of Trump, I want to be careful because people get this confused. I think he did what was right for America. He was an America First president. He kept us out of wars. He put the American people first, and he was fighting for them, which is why they were attacking him. And the same thing goes for me. I'm being attacked, whether it's the Nevada bar, whether it's the media, because I'm fighting for the everyday working man and woman in Nevada. And so I think Trump was absolutely duped. There's no way he could have known that Moderna had a patent for a vaccine because he wasn't even president yet. Then they went to him in 2000, I believe it was 18, and had him sign an executive order that if a pandemic came, he could speed up this stuff. And I think President Trump, being the accomplished businessman that he was, wanted to solve this and felt if he could push on it. But I honestly think they played him the entire time. They went to him and said, if you do this, they know he's a no nonsense, don't tell me what I can't do type of guy. And I think that he saw what can we do? You're telling me we can't unleash American ingenuity and get this thing to market quicker in a pandemic. I think that was all set up. And I think that part of it is, President Trump isn't, I don't think, like someone like me in terms of I work with America's frontline doctors. I have spent thousands of hours learning about this vaccine and about the ramifications of it. And I think, he wasn't given the complete information of what this could do. And I think he probably still doesn't know 100% of how bad it is, because if you look at what the media did, they sold this thing as it was the answer. I mean, look what they did. And, again, even Fox News, they were all in on it. So when they're sitting there saying that, it's the unvaccinated in the hospital, that wasn't true. I had friends at the Southern Nevada Health District giving me information. All right, I had people in the hospital saying, no, Joey, 65% plus of the people hospitalized right now are double vaccinated. So that was never true. And I just think that we've never seen such censorship like we've seen here across the world the last 2 or 3 years. I just don't think the president had any idea it was coming. And again, if I'm wrong, I'll own it. But I don't think that man would ever intentionally want Americans to harm themselves or to take a product that could harm them. And I'll say that, until someone proves to me otherwise.
You mentioned the bar. Let's talk about the bar. Is the bar a unlawful monopoly?
I don't know. I really don't want to go into specifics. As you know, my law license is how I provide for my family. Mm-hmm. But I will say this. I don't think that the way that things are done sometimes are done with the type of fairness we would expect. And I'll just leave it at that for now.
Okay. Let's talk about all that marijuana revenue, dispensary revenue that was supposed to go to schools. So what happened with all that?
So that's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I was a cannabis, startup guy. Me and my partners up in Reno, we had Mint Cannabis, so 2 dispensaries, and vertically integrated company that sold for a lot of money a few years ago, and and we did very well. And we were all sucked in. I've taken some heat for this because at the time, I think it was 2015 or 16, people remember Tick Cinderbloom was considered the godfather of pot at the Nevada legislature. And so we went to an event and they said, we all got to give to Tick. So everybody that was a license holder, essentially, we gave him $500. And we all did it because we thought this is going to be an amazing opportunity to fix our schools. Our schools have been broken for a long time. And then to later learn, and I'm not as connected to the space as I once was, but to learn that money hasn't gone back where we thought it was going to go is disheartening, and again, not surprising at all.
If and when you win, what are the top 5 issues, agendas that you have going forward?
Oh, it's very simple. Election integrity, fixing our broken schools, the economy, crime, law enforcement, and our water and power issues, dovetailing in with, I'd say, Second Amendment.
Family law. Let's talk about family law for a second. What do you think about the family law industry?
I think it's a racket. I think it's corrupt. I think it's broken beyond reproach. I think the entire thing needs to be retooled. And again, you want to get me in some trouble right now. Saying what I'm saying right here, especially in this state, is not welcomed. It's frowned upon. You're not supposed to talk about the broken family court system here that destroys lives, doesn't do what's in the best interest of the children. It's disgusting, it's corrupt, and it needs to be fixed.
Thank you for that answer, actually, because it seems as though two of the biggest issues is we're now 50th in education, we're second highest in unemployment, and then you have the family law industry destroying lives, and we're expecting a healthy new generation. Why is it that other politicians do not see these cornerstones of our culture eroding?
They're cowards. They're cowards. You don't have moral courage. I'm not in this thing because I want to be a politician. I'm a dad. I'm a father first. I'm a businessman, an entrepreneur. I know how to do business. I know how to fix this state faster than any of these guys. And it's going to be doing what's right. That's all we need. We need accountability. That's why these guys don't want to talk about it, because they're expecting on these high dollar donations from the people behind these, courts and attorneys and, and organizations, entities. They want their money. I don't want their money. I want the people's money. If the people support me, if we get 50,000 Nevadans to give me $50, I don't need these guys. I'm not going to be the $5,000 donation guy because I'm not going to be accountable to those guys. I'm going to be accountable to we the people, and that's the difference. These guys are afraid, and they're afraid about bringing up subjects that are tough because they can't tap dance through them. And there's no way to tap dance through the answers I just gave you on that family court. It's broken, it needs to be fixed, and a lot of judges and people need to resign and just go away so we can start over.
How do you fix it?
I think you get in. It's all about leadership. Look, this state's suffering from a pandemic of failed leadership. We have a complete clown in office. I will never mince words with Steve Sisolak because I took the calls from parents that lost their kids. I took the calls from people that lost their businesses, after 20 years, couldn't make the payroll. I took the calls from loved ones whose family members were in the hospital not receiving treatment that their doctors called in for them. All right. Never seen this before in America, where doctors like my father that tried to go and speak to another doctor was told to leave the property or he'd be arrested. This is a 3 times deployed combat trauma surgeon, a retired lieutenant colonel with the Marine Corps, and he was told to leave the hospital or they'd call the police. He told them call the police. And when the police came there, they shook his head and said, "How you doing, doc?" But the bottom line is what has happened in this state, what's been allowed to happen to our seniors, to our children, to our businesses, and the tying of our doctors' hands is something that must never happen again.
What makes you so passionate? I mean, you're an attorney, you could make a lot of money and live a great life. You're putting yourself under risk. When you walked in, you're going to have that water tested in case there was, in case somebody was trying to do foul play. I mean, obviously you live with a sense of, being on guard. You're at risk for going against the grain. What is it that makes you want to do this?
Well, I'm a marked man for sure right now. I'm saying all the things that's not supposed to be said, but it's very simple. They cross the line. They cross the line in the sand with my children, with our children, with our medication, letting people die, and with the closing of our businesses and churches. They cross the line. When you mask these beautiful children, and we've always known respiratory viruses, the particulate size of COVID, just like the flu, are not stopped by a mask. We've always known that. They knew that. That's why it disappeared in 4 days. All right. So when you mask our beautiful children, now they're having, developmental issues, psychological issues, emotional issues that are off the charts. When 90% plus of our children failed, meaning they got crushed in this distance learning, when you cancel their sports, Nevada is the only state in the union that doesn't get basketball. Even those nut jobs in Hawaii gave the kids basketball. But when you don't give these kids basketball, and coming from a student athlete myself, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without boxing, right? So you're taking kids, let's look down here in Las Vegas, that needed that sophomore, junior, senior year of hooping or a ball or wrestling or track or whatever it was to get out, to get to that community college, that D1, that D2 school. They needed that. They didn't get that. These lives got crushed. They got their youth stolen, and that's something they will never get back. And I will never forget that. And so when I see Steve Sisolak taking some tough words at a restaurant, I think he deserves it, because what he did to these kids, what he did to these business owners, what he did to the loved ones who had to literally watch their family members die in a hospital. You got to understand, these people walked into the hospital and they got worse. They got worse at the hospital. They gave them remdesivir, which you look at the Ebola trials in Africa, 50% of the patients died. They had to remove everybody from. That was the only CDC approved medication that Steve Sisolak was allowing in our Nevada hospitals. So I have a bone to pick with him. I have a bone to pick with everybody that quarterbacked this pandemic. Like I said, it's a line in the sand for me. Our children, the medication that they provided, and the closing of our businesses and churches.
I really enjoy your brutal honesty. I like the fact that you're not a politician. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing for this interview?
Well, yeah, look, I think it's important that people understand there's a time and a place for everything in America and for everything in the world. Right now, we don't need another politician. We don't need anybody outside of a proven fighter who has spent 22 months fighting these corrupt, completely, off the tracks, clueless folks that have just been going along to get along. So if you were in politics and you didn't go down to the county commission, and these are for the Michelle Fioris, these are for the Dean Hellers, these are for the Joe Lombardos, the John Lees. Even though I like some of these guys, I like John Lee a lot. But the bottom line is, where were you when we knew that the suicides were the highest per capita in the country? Why didn't you go down and say, Maryland, we got to open up. This is bad. Okay, we can't do this anymore. Where were you when these businesses were closing, every day, when people couldn't get their unemployment? I mean, when people were dying in the hospitals, but they're using treatment in other states that are working, and we're trying to get this information to folks. So I would say right time, right place. And right now, Nevada needs a fighter. Nevada needs a champion. I am the people's champ. I've been that. And it's not someone who's going to promise to do something when they get in. This is the thing that kills me. Crime is exploding here in Las Vegas, all right? It's been the worst it's ever been from 2017 to 2022. So Joe Lombardo's every commercial is what a great sheriff he's been. That's not the case.
Yeah.
So where I come from, son of a Marine, you don't do your job, you don't get promoted. You don't get another job. You don't get a promotion and a raise. There is no one else in this race that deserves to be the governor that's got the qualifications, that's got the moral courage, and that's got the tenacity to do what's right. So I would just say this, people shouldn't take it as, oh, this guy is just a brute, or he's just going to be. First of all, I'm in court every day. I know how to be, professional. I know how to be gubernatorial. I work awesome across the aisle with anybody. But make no mistake, I am fighting for the people. And what people need to understand is all the attacks that are forthcoming, all right, anything they come at me for is going to be because I am fighting for the people, all right? They're coming after me because I'm standing in front of you.
And you've already sued for the opening of churches. Do you want to say a little bit about that? Because you put your license on the line there. I'm sure the bar wasn't very happy.
Well, that's why I'm going through the bar issues I'm going through right now. I've got a complaint that was filed, that the bar has taken way further than it would ever take anything like this. But it's because when you fight back, when you punch for the people, you're not supposed to do that. When you upset the status quo, when you upset the power brokers, and I was warned a year ago, Joe, you better back off. I'm telling you, man, they'll go for your law license, and I was warned, and I said, you know what, I'm doing what's right. What's right is the casinos are open, the dispensaries are open, the liquor stores are open. When they open the strip clubs, I was like, this is too much. Mm-hmm. So we filed the lawsuit to get the churches open, lost here in Las Vegas, appealed it to the Ninth Circuit, and 10 days before Christmas, we got all Nevada churches open. We had 3 Trump judges. So it was amazing. Then the next lawsuit, actually prior to that lawsuit, I filed a lawsuit against the governor for hydroxychloroquine. Didn't make sense to me that something that, again, on the CDC's own homepage, it said safe for women and children for up to 5 years and safe for pregnant women. That's not even on Tylenol. And this medication was banned. So again, we filed that lawsuit, which made hydroxychloroquine available in the state after July 23rd, 2020. But no one knows it. That's how good of a job they did on the news media, the censorship, the hospitals. Well, people were dying that didn't need to die. And again, this isn't Joey Gilbert saying this. It is a 200% weighted average. 200% weighted average against hospitalization and death, which really means no one had to die. No one had to die. So we sued him for the hydroxychloroquine. We sued him for the churches. Then we filed a lawsuit to get our children out of the masks. Because again, I'm watching Florida went back to full in-person schooling and sports in August 2020. So we filed a lawsuit in August 2021 to get our children out of the masks. What did that judge do? She slow-walked it and dismissed our case the week of Christmas break here in Las Vegas after she let the whole semester go through. That's called a political activist judge. And so what are we doing to her? We're appealing that to the Ninth Circuit because I don't trust Sisolak one bit. I think that absolutely this was a political science move of taking the mask off these kids because they're watching the data. One thing about these guys, if they like the data, they use it. If they don't like the data, they don't use it. But the data was telling them, you better end COVID quick or you guys are done. Well, the secret to this whole thing is they're done anyway. A red wave is coming, the likes of which they've never seen. But here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. It's not a red wave. It's the people's wave. It's independents, it's nonpartisans, it's common sense Democrats, it's libertarians, it's military veterans, it's Leos, it's mama bears. And the mama bears have had it, and I'll tell you this one. This is where the line in the sand really went. When you put these children in the masks, when you send them home from school, when you cancel their sports, the mama bears woke up, and that's who you should have never crossed because they don't see party. Mm-hmm. They see you hurt our children, and we're coming for you. And that's why I'm going to win this primary in a landslide.
Joey, thank you so much for coming. I really sincerely appreciate the fact that you put yourself on the line. I really do. And I know it's hard. I understand everything about, the way the world of law works, the way the bar works. I know you've taken a lot of risks. And I commend you, and I really hope people listen to this podcast. I know you've been in front of a lot of the traditional mainstream media that's not asking you these important questions. And, I hope you do very well.
Yeah, they just want to hit you with some gotcha questions here and there. And again, they don't want to dip into what really matters to Nevadans. And at the end of the day, again, the 5 top polling issues, like I said to you, was, fixing our broken schools, the election integrity, the ending of all COVID mandates, our security, which is, crime, law enforcement. And then, like I said, it toggles between economy, Second Amendment, water and power issues like that. And I'm the only one that's not only taking these on, but I've got solutions. So thank you.
Please add family law to that list.
And that's in that... And one of the little buffers there where we're ending the insanity with the mandates and all that. It's just too much. I always tell people that's part of my government overreach, thing that we need to stop. The government should not be in our businesses, our schools, our healthcare. Okay, it shouldn't be in any, and definitely not in our churches. So that's part of that, and that goes into our everyday personal lives. There's too much government in our everyday lives.
Thank you, Joey, for your courage. I really appreciate you coming down to the Blood Money podcast.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.